everybody. Nice intro. So thanks for welcoming me to Code Talks, and thanks for the great idea last year to write a talk about AI in games. So yeah, we'll take a look at what AI can, can't, and shouldn't do for games, and for what it's worth, generative AI did not make this presentation. All right. So I've been coding and making games since I was 11 years old. I'm 15 here, rocking a double monitor Apple II setup. And in my 40-plus year career as a technologist, I believe the advent of AI is the single greatest technological change since the invention of the internet. It's really caught many by surprise, and mind you, I've been around since this was the most amazing thing that a computer could do. So what do we mean when we say AI? AI has been around since the dawn of computers. But when we're talking about AI today, the stuff that's setting the tech world on fire, what most people mean is generative AI, the type of AI designed to create new content, text and images and music and other data types based on the input that it receives, which is usually a text prompt that contains parameters. But it's not just generating this data, but generating it at a level that challenges but not yet surpasses the Turing test. To even challenge it is incredible, and AI is now capable of some really amazing things. And so, immediately, everyone in finance, obviously, was like, yes, let it rain money. AI can do everything. We're going to have generative design and code and art and music and QA, and we will empty out the offices and keep all the money. Well, okay, so that did not go so well, unsurprisingly. So let's examine how game developers are using AI right now. So in January of this year, the Game Developers Conference, which is the largest conference in my field, released their State of the Industry report. And for the first time, AI was a topic of the survey, which just shows you how fast the field has evolved. And they asked participants about their use of generative AI tools, such as GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, and Adobe Generative Fill. And nearly half of game developers said that generative AI was being used in their studio. 31% of people noted that they were using AI themselves. 18% said that they didn't, and but their colleagues did. And 15% said that while they didn't use it, their studio was interested in it, and the remainder just had no interest or they were unsure. And answers also varied depending on people's roles in the company. So 44% of people in business and finance used AI tools, compared with 16% of those in art-related roles, and only 13% for those in narrative. And what about those who didn't use AI tools? Well, 21% of AAA studios, which is basically the creators of really big blockbuster games like Call of Duty, they prohibited the use of AI entirely. And for smaller developers, this number was 12%. 7% of developers allowed some tools, and while other studios made it optional. So what about Romero games? Well, we use no generative AI in our games at all, whether it's in art or code or audio, writing or design, and we're really firm about that. AI can sometimes be useful as like a super Google for research for us, parsing thousands of links into potentially definitive answer. But there's still a lot of work to do. AI has told me that I was born in Guatemala, and I wasn't. That I was raised by my Mexican grandmother. I was not. But at least she was Mexican, and that was, that would have been really cool if she did. Evidently, I appear in music videos, which is news to me. And best of all, I'm the son of horror movie maker George Romero, which, given the games I make and the movies he makes, is at least plausible. But the truth is, like, these things are not true, and that is obviously dangerous. I'll come back to this later on. So why haven't game developers like Romero Games jumped on this generative AI bandwagon? Well, given the cost of game development, averaging $75 million for the average AAA game, the idea of having AI create your content at least seems like a no-brainer. However, when surveyed, a full 84% of game developers said that they were very or somewhat concerned about the ethics of AI use, and only 12% said they were not concerned at all. If anything, people wanted to see AI automate processes to make their creative work easier, not to take that creative work itself away. Like, that's why we do what we do. Even more than that, like, we don't want to potentially impinge on the rights of others. And now this is not to say that game developers don't use AI. Like, we do tons and tons of AI, and we have for decades. So let's take a look at what AI can do for games. So in 1993's Doom, all enemies used pathfinding AI to traverse the level to find their way to the player or another enemy that caused them damage. And we use algorithms like A*STAR to find the shortest path from one place to another. To add flavor and depth to these demonic enemies, to make them feel like pure chaos, we decided that demons would get mad at each other and infight if their attack hit another demon of a different type. This was a behavior that we had to code into our AI to get this kind of gameplay. So, quick story. On the boss level of Doom, there are 2 Barons of Hell. And the way the AI was programmed, when an enemy took damage, it would target the entity that caused the damage. Typically, it's the player, right? If the player attacked an enemy, the enemy would target the player. Very simple. Except when a toxic barrel is blown up. So during development, on the boss level, a Baron threw its green fireball at the player, but it hit a barrel, and then the barrel exploded, and it hurt the Baron because it was too close to the barrel. So the Baron then stood in place and scratched at the air and was actually damaging itself. And it made pain sounds, and it kept on doing this until it died. So the problem was caused by the code tracing, which caused the barrel to explode so the damaged entity could target the thing that caused the barrel to blow up, which was the Baron itself. So he didn't mean for enemies to target themselves, and we fixed that feature. It wasn't a bug, it was just a feature. In Red Dead Redemption 2, NPCs use finite state machines to manage enemy and NPC behavior. Whether they identify, patrol, attack, flee, draw a card, or drink is up to the AI, and they transition based on certain conditions or events. For instance, if they hear a gunshot, they might duck for cover. That's with finite state machines. In complex strategy games, decision trees are commonly used. So decision trees help agents in the game make decisions based on specific conditions. They use hierarchical structures that evaluate multiple conditions to choose an action. And what resource are they going to use? Like, what are their short-term combat tactics? What is their long-term combat strategy? Decision trees in games like Age of Empires 4 can be substantial. Behavior trees allow us to create more flexible and modular AI behaviors. So in 2004, Halo 2 used behavior trees to manage the complex behavior of its enemies. And basically, behavior trees are composed of nodes that define various behaviors, like moving to cover or throwing grenades or engaging the player in combat. And these nodes can be reused across a variety of enemies, making it easier to implement diverse behaviors without redundant coding and design. So, though less in use now, utility AI is another method of decision-making AI for enemies and NPCs. So, agents possess a defined set of actions, each of which is evaluated and sorted or scored according to its current usefulness given the existing state of the world. And it basically has a specific value a heuristic that it is trying to meet to make its decisions. So it's basically a formula. It takes inputs and comes out with an output about what it's supposed to do. Racing games, or games which require realistic movement that use steering AI to control the direction and the speed of NPCs to achieve goals like fleeing or seeking, attacking, or avoiding obstacles. It's often used in simulation and racing games for natural and fluid movement. It's a little more complex as the AI has to know how to turn at the right velocity and get back onto a proper path to its goal, whether that's attacking the player or attacking another car or going off on the side road. So while not yet in use in traditional commercial games, applications like Google DeepMind and AlphaGo illustrate the challenge and potential of AI versus the human brain. Games like Minecraft use procedural biome generation to create never-ending worlds. The game contains its own crafted algorithms to generate content like, in this case, trees and dungeons and animals and flora and fauna based on random seeds and predefined rules. In games like Baldur's Gate 3 and pretty much every game with NPCs or missions also use scripted AI. And scripted AI allows us to control specific sequences and events. They're pre-written scripts that dictate NPC actions and events based on predefined triggers. So one of the more interesting uses of AI is design-assisted AI, where design works in conjunction with AI. So these can have particularly big payoffs for gameplay. So let me give you an example. In 1992, Wolfenstein 3D, in Wolfenstein 3D, we had what we referred to as sound zones. So normally the AI would, the way it works is wherever at any point in a level, there is a sound zone. There's a hallway outside of a room. The hallway has a sound zone, and the room has a sound zone. When you open the door, it's going to connect the sound zones. Now, normally the AI would decide that when I open the door into a room full of enemies, that it should also activate an enemy on the other side of the map. That's not something that AI would ever think to do. But for us designers, it really provided a tremendous sense of suspense for the player, hearing that something's coming towards them with doors opening and closing, and it's getting closer and closer to them. And that's a design decision that uses AI to make it happen. We basically take a sound zone where a bunch of enemies are, and then we use that sound zone far off in the level somewhere. So when those enemies are activated in that room, that other sound zone is activated, and then players are wondering, how did that happen? And it just provides really exciting suspense for the player. Another interesting example of this is in the Civilization series. As Sid Meier, the game's designer, told the story, a tester was playing the game, and he had a 33% chance of winning against a particular group of enemies. So he attacked once, and he lost a skirmish. He attacked again, and he lost the skirmish, and he attacked a third time, and he lost again. To him, this was unfair, and he thought it was actually a bug, because if he had a 33% chance, he reasoned that he should have won at least one of those 3 battles. Of course, that's not how random number generators work. However, Sid did not want to disappoint players. So he reasoned that even if the AI didn't work that way, he could override that AI to improve the player experience. So if a player lost 3 times in a row, they were guaranteed to win on the 4th try. But, the difference between the AI that game developers use and generative AI is that we built or licensed this AI using our tools from our creativity. Middleware companies like Havok have made a successful business around licensing AI and other tools for game developers. And among the other things, game developers can license all of their navigation AI from Havok, for instance. And Havok is just one company among many companies that offer these kinds of solutions. There it is. So while AI can do a great many things, there are definitely things that it can't do. So let's go back to 1993. There were 5 of us discussing our next game, me and Adrian and John and Tom and Kevin Cloud. And we knew only one thing. We wanted to make a game better than any game that we had ever played. And so on January 1st, 1993, while people were still probably recovering from their New Year's Eve hangover, we sent out a press release. id Software to unleash Doom on the PC. So we listed all the game's features. You can find the press release online if you like. And we declared with a shocking level of confidence that in 1993, we fully expect to be the #1 cause of decreased productivity businesses around the world. Well, it's nuts that we said that. But at the same time, we had our own AI, actual intelligence, and a database of games and gameplay in our heads. So we were hardcore gamers, and we knew, first and foremost, that what we were creating was a game design that no one had ever seen before. We knew that we could deliver the tech to deliver that design, and we knew that when we pulled it off, well, we can't really imagine playing anything better, so we just couldn't. And that game was Doom. And the point that I'm getting at here is that AI, built on the shoulders of existing knowledge, is unlikely to create something great from absolutely nothing. AI is, by its very nature, forced to be derivative. It can do amazing things like find new uses for medicines and based on known interactions and benefits. It can parse data faster than humans and suggest interesting things. And it can deliver in seconds the combined knowledge of 10,000 or more links and just save you tons of time. But I don't believe that it can innovate, like really and truly innovate, and to find that light in the darkness, so to speak. Every game designer, every programmer, every artist, everyone knows that something like Doom was really a once-in-a-lifetime event. Like the right people, the right place, the right time, the right design, art, tech. So I was really incredibly fortunate to be there, and I just don't think AI can do that yet. So I asked GPT, I need you to create a pitch for an FPS game that's truly innovative and compete with titles like Battlefield, Fortnite, PUBG, and so on. And with the world at its digital fingertips, it had this to suggest. Echoes of Eternity is a groundbreaking first-person shooter that merges intense combat with a deeply immersive narrative, procedural world-building, and advanced AI technology. It aims to push the boundaries of the FPS genre by integrating a dynamic storyline that evolves based on player decisions, a living, breathing world that adapts to the actions of its inhabitants, and a cooperative multiplayer mode that emphasizes teamwork and strategic planning. Well, it takes more than saying groundbreaking to be groundbreaking. Pushing the boundaries, well, it's easy to say, but not so easy to do. And the reality is that all of this has been done, and it's been done together in a single game. Like even looking at the details of the feature list, it just wasn't hitting any kind of new mark. So I tried again. Hi, AI, I hope you're well. I was polite. I co-created the first-person shooter, and I'm not impressed with this answer. It's not really innovative at all. All of this has been done before. Yeah. Well, so of course it apologized. Let's take another approach and push the boundaries further. How about combining unique gameplay mechanics and technological advancements that truly set your FPS apart from existing titles? Yes, let's do that. All right, here we go. Echoes of Eternity is a revolutionary first-person shooter that redefines the genre through groundbreaking integration of quantum mechanics, real-time emotional AI, and immersive multi-sensory feedback. The game creates an unparalleled experience where players manipulate time, interact with emotionally intelligent NPCs, and feel the physical sensations of the battlefield. Okay. Yeah, it's true. No one has done this before. This is actually innovative, but does anyone want it? Like, is it technically feasible? How many people have a suit, I guess, to take damage like that? you know, that will let them get the physical sensations of the battlefield. How many people, want to feel that. And, what the hell do you mean by quantum mechanics? Are we going to split time and space? Because that's already been done before. In fact, even the title has been done before. It's published by Games Workshop. It's also a heavy metal band and a book of religious contemplation, and an actual game that opened for pre-order 4 years ago. Yeah, now, very interesting things are happening with new applications of AI and games, and I'm excited about how they will evolve. First, I cannot wait to play a game that has narrative generated in real time from AI. So let's say that you're in a game and you come up to an NPC. Instead of listening to the game's pre-written lines in pre-recorded voiceover audio, you could actually talk through your headset microphone. The audio is translated to text. The text is fed into game code that handles the specifics of the NPC you're talking to, and the response is generated by AI and spoken using text-to-speech technology. So this actually started last year when ChatGPT was released. Eve Echoes, The Last Door, and AI Dungeon 2 are all examples of AI-generated storylines, dialogue options, and NPC spoken dialogue generated by ChatGPT. So the new job in game narrative is using AI and learning how to restrict and guide what your characters can talk about, what they know, and what they can tell the player at any given time, all while obeying ethical standards that are being developed for AI use. Narrative designers will then learn new skills to help fine-tune the words that they want the player to hear. And the next interesting bit of AI research actually uses Doom. As you can see here, AI has been watching Doom being played, and merely by analyzing just the screen, it's figuring out how to recreate Doom without using any graphic files or any of its code. And at the end of the article, another AI researcher says game creation is not going to be replaced by AI for the foreseeable future. It really takes human creativity, imagination, and skills to make these incredibly complex games. So I don't want to put down all the amazing things that AI is capable of, but for me, I'm betting on the right people at the right time with the right idea. But let's say, just for the sake of argument, that lightning did strike and AI found an amazing, standout, creative idea. And that's what brings me to what AI shouldn't do. So the challenge with AI, at least in creative fields, is that it's being generated based on aggregated data. So the idea of who owns the copyright to these outcomes is a matter that's incredibly contentious, as you can see. Of course, the use of AI-generated art has been a really hot-button issue and the subject of several lawsuits that have yet to be resolved. And as of right now, AI-generated art, once created, enters the public domain. It cannot be afforded copyright protection in the United States because it is not human-authored. So a defense of AI-generated art is that it's a tool used by a human to generate art, just like Photoshop is a tool used by a human to create copyrightable artwork. And now Photoshop has a legally safe generative AI fill function that could be used over an original artwork. So combining AI generation with original art begins to complexify the definition of copyrightable art. And if you create a children's book filled with AI-generated art and the words are your own, you are entitled to copyright protection. But what happens when you also AI generate the whole story and they're not your words? So anytime that you're in uncharted waters like this, it is dangerous in any creative field to risk the legality of your intellectual property. And because of this, even Steam, the biggest online platform for PC games, looks to be limiting its own liability by forcing developers to disclose that they have used AI in their game. Stuff. And when you use AI, what happens to your data, to your questions? Is that also feeding into a data set? Like, will it show up in someone else's search or generated output? There are certainly ways to prevent that, but I wonder if that's something that everyone knows. And more than that, like more than any of this, all of us do what we do because it means a lot to us. When I was young, I wanted to do nothing more than make games, code all night, and listen to heavy metal. And only the length and color of my hair has changed. I don't want anything to take that fun away from me. And I look forward to a future where AI is an exceptional tool, not the alpha and omega of the creative process. And as a technologist, I think that's what's happening now is the single greatest technological leap since the invention of the internet. And that's not hyperbole. That it is groundbreaking. It is revolutionary. It is literally game-changing, and I'm really eager to see where we will take it. And to discover new medicines that crunch incredible amounts of data, but I just don't see it creating the next Minecraft, Fortnite, Tetris, or Doom. Not yet. Thanks for having me here at Code Talks. So, questions, anybody? Like, thank you. I'll answer what I can.
Just had to charge my phone. I have so many questions.
All right.
So many questions, but I think there's going to be more. Otherwise, I can do this the rest of the day if you want. First of all, just a simple one. You were talking a lot about like AI and like algorithms, basically interchangeable. Like you said, Minecraft is created by an AI, and I was wondering, like where's the line between like what's an actual AI for you and what is do you differentiate between like generative AI, algorithms that are following a certain
predefined algorithmic AI versus generative AI?
Yeah, that's what the question is. Okay,
yeah.
so
that's the line. Like either the humans have created the algorithms to directly generate an intelligence against the player, versus generative, which right now doesn't even know like how it gets to the state that the result is.
Yeah.
Based off of LLM data.
Yeah.
So generative AI is different than algorithmic AI.
Ah, okay, good. Yeah, because I was asking myself that, and I was like, okay, but I don't feel like, maybe also the whole thing changed so much. Like generative AI changed my perception of what AI is so much now that I feel like that there's like needs to be a more clear line. Also funny how, at least for me, I'm not sure if I was the only one, but like every single picture you showed, I looked at the fucking fingers of people. I was like, is that generated?
Is that generated?
Yeah.
AI is getting better,
Yeah.
They're fixing the finger problem as fast as possible.
Yeah, I released Flux Dev, the new generative model. They fixed fingers like every second time. Yeah, number 3, please.
Thank you so much for the presentation over here, and thank you so much for your work as well. My question is, recently Age of Mythology Retold, I assume you've heard of it. It received a lot of pushback for the god portraits, which were maybe AI assisted, maybe not, and they said they weren't, and they fixed it, they changed it up a little bit, touched up the pictures. And my question is, do you think the pushback was valid or was done correctly or is correctly in this space? Because like compared to, we don't push back against a AI pathfinding algorithm or something, which is also generated. Do you think the public reacts adequately at the moment at these things, these scandals, mini scandals?
There's a lot of public reacting to things, and even game journalism reacting to things. Just even minor little things, because I guess it makes news. And I hadn't heard about this Age of Mythology thing, but people have really like focused on AI-generated art as a bad thing, and like don't put that in your game. Like even during our concept process on our current game, we're not allowed to use AI-generated art. It's just like it's not a thing. Don't use it, because if you generate something and you are generating mass amounts of art, whether something is AI generated or a concept artist created it, sometimes that art moves, someone else handles the art, and then maybe there's some AI art that's published in a book, and because they didn't know that it was generated or not. So you just like, we're not allowed to use anything like that. I was actually at the Age of Mythology launch party when it came out. I went to every single Age of Empires launch party back then. But yeah, I'm going to look into that because the reaction from the public on that is just AI art is just like don't ever use it. So just people are against it. Versus algorithms, I think a lot of people don't know what's being used in games anyway. you know, whether they're generative or not.
I feel like a lot of this, like this rejection part comes from like it being so close to being human, you know, it's very close to being human, and so people are like afraid of it. Like no one cares if someone wrote a generative AI that's really bad, like GPT-2 or something, like 2 years ago, it was so bad, and everyone was like, oh, yeah, it's a shitty AI, and now it's so good to the point that you can confuse it, and now everyone is like, oh, no, I don't like that. That's not good. Yeah. Okay, I have one more question, and then we will go to number 2. Maybe like what you just said, like the AI-generated part. I didn't write that down yet, but you mentioned the storyline being generated, and also like I would love to really like engage, because I think that's what it's really good at. Is like coming up with like some stuff that is really engaging in a talk, where if you give him like some parameters and be like, okay, you're an avatar and you go and like this, give it a backstory, and then you talk to it more than this pre-script, and you know every other person that ever played this game has had the same dialogue with that NPC.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's going to be amazing. But what about like, let's say, for example, what's the Unreal Engine, for example, is using tiling generation. They have a generative art that is generating the tessellation and generating tiles for like environments.
Yeah.
That's I wanna. That's the same, because for me I think that's great, because usually that would take a lot of time and it's not so
I know.
much. Yeah.
You know, actually, NVIDIA is going to be doing that on the card. So you'll be able to just say, I need 2 million pebbles on the beach, and here's a basic texture, and it will generate them for you. No one needs to model anything.
Yeah.
It's just like, it'll just do it. It'll do it in the card, so there's no data going back and forth to slow things down.
Yeah.
So it'll just happen on the card.
Yeah.
So they're already working on this stuff. There's going to be a lot of AI in everything that we do.
Yeah.
So, it's all over the place.
Yeah. Number 2?
Hi, thanks for the talk. I have a question related to Gen AI, of course. There's been some concerns also about using replacing voice actors with artificial, voice actors. So I mean, that is in line with what you said. My question is, how would you feel if an actor actually sold his voice so that companies could use it to produce infinite amount of voice lines?
Well, yeah, Hollywood's already doing that. So they've already have agreements with some actors to take their voice, and like there's already generative AI that can listen to a 30-second clip and now basically speak exactly in any language in that person's voice. So it's incredible. And for me, I would love to be able to license some famous, Hollywood star's voice, even if it's just gone through an algorithm that maybe they even have the algorithm, they can just generate the files for us or whatever. But as long as everybody's paying everyone to license this stuff, it's like to like even have the likeness of somebody, they need to pay a license fee for that. So I guarantee right now Hollywood is all over this topic because it is happening already. Like if you saw the latest Top Gun movie, like Val Kilmer's voice is recreated from his old movies. It's all AI generated because he can't talk anymore. And it's cool. He helped them, just like Mickey Rourke also helped his voice come back through AI. So it's really great technology. Everyone's trying to make sure that they can monetize that's their property, that's their brand. And as long as people are paying for it, a lot of times it makes it way more accessible than like I got to go into the studio or like, I was Darth Vader, or say James Earl Jones. His estate could be getting money from his voice forever by licensing his voice. And you want to keep on having the original Darth Vader's voice in Star Wars games. Keep on paying license fees for all those voices. So it's great. I think that's one of the greatest things that AI can do is just like perpetuate somebody's brand into the future, even if they're deceased. It's awesome. So it's going to happen. But it's great to figure out all the legal problems first. I
was about to say, there's so many legal problems by this. Like, how do you use your face? Like, how much is that? I'm pretty sure there's already like
they're figuring it
lawyers
all out.
out there right now doing that.
Hollywood's good at throwing money at problems like that.
Did it answer the question?
Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, I also wrote that down. I really loved when you read out the answer from the AI. That sounded really epic.
I apologize.
No, that was. I'm legit.
They always apologize.
I loved how you were like, the game. I don't know. It was really epic.
I actually, it was funny. I was testing ChatGPT with its programming knowledge, and one of the first things I did, I said, I want you to write a Hello World program in 1960s COBOL. Boom! It dumped it out correctly. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Let's see how much you actually know. So I said, on the Apple II in high res, I want you to write, draw the letter A on the high res screen, and it did it wrong. And then I told it, no, why you shouldn't have that increment X there or whatever. It's like, I apologize. Here's the code, and it fixed that bug, but had another bug in it. And like, okay, that's not right either because you wouldn't do that decrement Y right there. It's like, I apologize, and then it like dumps out the code until finally it worked. Yeah. But like 1980s assembly language on an Apple II, it knows that, and this is like last year. So this year is even better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things in it. Like it does keep you make you more productive. It keeps a lot of like the barriers down. Like for small game studios they can just do stuff now that they couldn't have done before, just because stuff gets cheaper and more accessible now.
Also, if you want to blow away your grandparents, just show them ChatGPT and have them ask questions.
Yeah. Number 4.
Thank you. You talked about the problems of generative AI for art or I don't know. All the stuff, but I was thinking about using AI for actually the fighting mechanics, or I don't know, adopting new strategies, like picking up fight style of one player and then improving on that. Because you talked about the predefined algorithms that you use for pathfinding or fighting, but not AI, like, I don't know, improving AI used in that. What's your thoughts on that?
So yeah, for fighting games, it's all algorithms that we use right now. Like there's a specific like fighting style that enemies will use, but they're also aware of their opponents, and so they know how to counter or block moves. And when they're about to do a special, like they know how to move out of the way, and they basically have to decide whether they're going to do it or not based off of like the skill level. And so they could counter everything basically. It'd be really hard if there was an AI that was unbounded to beat it. So they have to actually be stupid. And like most of the AI that we put in games has to be dumbed down so the player can actually feel like they're having fun. Otherwise, they're wiped out immediately. So like fighting games, they have to like decide that they're going to do the block or not, and they have to roll, basically they're rolling percentile dice and deciding that they will do the block or not do the block because, you're a human, and and so they have to be messed up every once in a while, and that's like on purpose. Otherwise, they would perfectly do everything right.
Well, that's true, but what if the AI could decide how to dumb down? Like, we don't want it to be perfect, but there could be many ways that it would be dumb.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about AI, algorithmic programming AI, is that you can't make the opponent seem like they're stupid, because then you don't want to play it anymore because the game's dumb. So you have to make it seem like they're good, but they're not perfect. And the thing about that is, like, if you have a perfect enemy, you can't attain mastery. And players like that. They like the fact that they feel mastery, but you can't give them total mastery. But you also can't make them feel like it's unattainable. Attainable mastery, the concept of attainable mastery is what keeps people playing over and over and over again. But if it looks like it's impossible, they wouldn't do it. And there's that fine line of like, how dumb can you make the game look before players go, that's not even worth playing. Like, this isn't even, so they have to kind of be real-time generated difficulty to like, with that percentile dice that they're going to roll is going to be based off of their accuracy score. So the more accurate they are, the higher that accuracy, the higher that they will actually do a block correctly. And when the other player is not that good, it's going to lower it down. So, but there's a threshold. It's not going to be really like super dumb. So there's like a minimum, and then there will be a maximum. So yeah, it has to adjust in real time. And now, if you're going to have generative AI do that, you probably could do that. I don't know if it could do it as fast as a fighting game requires it, because fighting games are down to microseconds basically. You'd have to have like on-chip generative AI on the system that you're on, because you could never use the internet for that kind of a game.
I actually think there was a paper 2 years ago already that used generative AI for movement interpolation. So basically, what they did they have this movement space. So let's say usually you have like this. Let's say someone creates 30 different animations for people or like avatars to act, and this new system can basically interpolate and react to any engagement. And honestly, another thing I would love to see in games, like if I hit like that and the enemy just does like do this, like actually hits where it hits, and that would be. I think that's also a good thing.
That's a lot of it's definitely you have to have a different model for the characters. Yeah. It's a whole different world. Like there's a bunch of advancements in game dev that like there's the thing called motion matching right now in animation that is like normally a character has pre-recorded animations for certain things like getting hit and attacking and in the code to decide what to do, which one to play is really pretty simple. Like, oh, you're going to start running? Just start running, you know. And sometimes there'll be interpolation between things. But now with motion matching, it simplifies the job of an animator. Mm-hmm. So like every move that you think a character can make, you will just start recording your mocap, your motion capture, and do all of those in one long animation, and you're done. Yeah. And then all of the code basically knows where you're doing those turns. Like one of the things you'll do is walk in a spiral, tighter spiral. So then it can decide at the angle that you're turning which part of that animation it should start using, like where to jump in there and where to do the tight turn. Yeah. And it's amazing, and it makes it look super smooth. And like there's not many games out yet that use this technique.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that as well. That's really cool. I think we're talking about the same paper, but there was no motion capture in that. The one that I mean, there's no motion capture.
Yeah, it's all generated.
Yeah, it's all generated.
Very physics.
Like, it's physics-based. Yeah. Any further question? Did it answer the question?
Yeah, I would love to discuss, but I think I'm taking too much time. Thank you.
There's no other questions. You can. There is another question.
Yes. Hi. I'm not super into gaming, but I think this applies to many other spheres of life. You were talking about how you don't want to use AI because basically it kills creativity or innovation. How do you stay innovative?
That is the thing about making games. When you're making a big game, you have to see into the future farther. So, like right now, like when I pitched my game idea to get picked up by a publisher, I have to see in X amount of years, usually it's about 5 years, in 5 years, what's going to be the cool new thing that people are going to be excited about? What are the trends right now, and what will be something that I can extrapolate from what we're doing and where I see technology moving, or even social games or social interactions online. And then also, if you can, brand new technology. So we created a brand new technology at the beginning of this game that will come out and will be the first game with this tech when it's released, and then the world can use it. So like you have to have some new tech, you have to have vision into the future to see what people will probably want to do that they can't do right now, and also just anything new, and kind of put those things together into something that you think is going to actually improve the game type that you're trying to make. And I'm making an FPS, so mine is all about how do I make this FPS better with what the tools are, with where I see, like what kind of way do I like playing these games? What's the current mode? Like everyone's gonna make a battle royale. I'm like, I'm not making a battle royale. That's over. What is the next thing? And so innovation is really you have to focus on it, and you have to really plan. And you have to, you don't just do it by yourself. There's other people involved in these decision processes, and everyone agreeing, yeah, that's a direction that's interesting. But I remember when I was pitching, the idea of my current game, the people that I was talking to, they just didn't get it. They didn't understand what I was talking about. Even if I was describing it, unless they played those games, they would not know exactly what I'm talking about and how those things together make a new thing. But then they eventually did when it got, you start creating pitches and filling it out and everything. But it's a lot of focus on, I've seen all games, and here is a design that no one has seen before, and then you're innovating. And you also you're reacting while you're making the game to things that other people are doing. Yeah. So at some point, someone's going to do something that's similar to what you're doing, and if it's too close, then you might need to go to the next step of what that thing would be in the future beyond where you're at.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I think I have, do you know Miyazaki from Ghibli, the creator?
Of course, yeah.
He also had a similar quote on that, right? Like he said, AI is killing creativity, is like the enemy or death of creativity or something like that. Following up on that question, what you just said about the game that you are developing, what's your, like, let's say, game of the year of 2024? That's like my last question, and we will have the one, and then I think we will have to leave because Ben is already waiting for the next. So maybe I don't want to make you endorse anyone, but like there are so many games out there. I'm pretty sure you have a good overview. Like, what's the thing where you like that you might have already played, but also maybe that has been announced, or what you saw at Gamescom, or any of those game shows that you've been to? Like, what were you like? Oh, that is so cool! I can't wait to like play it.
I was really hoping that the Star Wars Outlaws game was going to be the cool big new thing, because I really love Ubisoft games and I love Star Wars, and I know that Ubisoft spends their time, like, even if they release something and it's not the best, they fix it, and they fix it for years. So I think that Outlaws has the potential to be really great. I don't remember if Starfield was released last year, but I was very into Starfield. Like, I wanted that game to be great.
I started like 5 hours and then I never.
Yeah, I know. I played it for days, and I was like, oh, all that in between stuff that Breath of the Wild and Skyrim had. Like, you have a goal and you want to go do this thing, but now you're on your way to the goal and all kinds of stuff happens on the way.
Yeah,
that's the best part of an adventure. But when you're playing Starfield, you just teleport to the thing.
Yeah,
and none of that in between happens, and the game becomes boring.
Yeah. I would love to have someone from Nintendo talking about Breath of the Wild, because just the sound engine that they have in Breath of the Wild, and like so crazy. Yeah. Okay, last question from number one, and then.
Yeah, thanks for the great talk. So my son is 12 years old now, and he's programming his game at this moment we're talking.
Wow.
So he's focusing on the algorithms, of course, at the moment, but there's always a point, okay, I need an asset for this player, or I need an asset for this enemy, or I just need a thruster or something like that. So I'm a big Creative Commons fan. I always recommend him, hey, search for that, try to use some of that, but of course, like a teenager, I could just generate it if I don't like the results. So it's like, how do you advise to make him see this kind of ethical boundary, which when you recreate some artists, of course, models are just feeding from art websites as well.
Well, I'd say you don't release your game with generated stuff. You can have it in there while you're making the game as a placeholder, as an example of what you want. But like, if he wants to get art right now, he can go to opengameart.org, I think it's .org, and just download sets of tiles for stuff and characters and animations. There's, like, if you're using Unity or Unreal, there's a marketplace full of really great stuff. And it's a way to like, fuel that ecosystem of creators making things for games and for gamers. So I'd say go to those marketplaces. Open Game Art is free. You just download any of it you want. It doesn't cost anything. And I've made several games with the art that's on there. Like full tile sets for, like, Super Nintendo-looking games. Like if you want a retro thing, or animations, characters, enemies, all that stuff. You can just get that up there. Just like look for it. There's sound effects out there the same way. So yeah, just go looking and use those marketplaces. That's and you can ship with those things. You can ship with the marketplaces and all these other things. They're not generated by AI. They're made by humans, and you're helping to support that ecosystem. Versus someone who's just uses generative AI and they're trying to sell stuff, which is probably happening right now anyway. Like they're putting stuff up there. Yeah, there's a lot of people generating a lot of stuff on the internet with the generative AI.
Yeah, also a lot of bad stuff happening with Flux and stuff. Okay, I'm sorry we have no more time for questions, but I feel like that's a good initiator maybe for last year.
Yeah,
and then we will have a panel discussion after the talk, so we can really just have like a bunch of people asking questions or something. It was so cool. I love the day. Also, like hacking in the morning, like trying to get Doom to run. We were literally sitting
Getting
right
Doom.
next. Yeah, right next to the. We were sitting right next to the breakfast, trying to make Doom run on my Mac, so we can play.
Got it working.
So
I have books,
Yeah.
and maybe there's a couple mouse pads left over, and there's pins, Doom pins like Cacodemons and Doom discs and stuff, which is outside in the main area.
Yeah.
If you guys want to look at books.
Not everyone
That
go there,
book.
please. Please
Yeah.
don't go everywhere. There's a really cool talk. I specifically put the good talks at the end of the day, so people stay. Next year we will have John at the end, so everyone stays.
All right.
So yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, John. That
Thank
was
you.
so cool.
All right. Awesome.
That was so cool.